yeah, once they have people taking plea deals, they had these guys up on the stand and they said that you were there one day where you were actually at work, and your lawyer was able to show that. They said that there was
Wow.
this secret meeting that at one of these government sponsored field training exercises, or FTXs, that they said that a group of them went off somewhere separate from everybody else to have this like private conversation, where there just so happened to be no informant there that could record it, where everything else is being recorded by like 5 or 6 different people. So we just have to take these 2 guys' word for it that took the plea deal. This conversation happened. He says Brandon's there. He's nodding in agreement. Brandon's at work that day.
And you were able to prove this?
His
Yeah,
lawyer
absolutely.
did.
Wow.
Yeah, he pulled up my work record and everything and said, wait a second, this day he was at work right there. So
Yeah.
how could he be at this meeting?
They're lying.
Lying.
You know, this sounds like now, you know, I wanted to make sure we get out the you were acquitted of all charges. You are innocent. You were innocent the whole time. You were never proven guilty. Like innocent until they still lock you up for a year and a half. They still run in the press that you were this guy, that you did these things, even though the feds had to have known that was fake. I mean, this guy is giving false statements. If you've got proof you weren't there and he says you were there, these are lies to try and jam you up, to lock you up, to destroy your life. This sounds like the FBI scripted the whole thing in advance. The majority of the people involved are either informants or actual agents. It sounds like they knew what they were doing before it all began, and they said, we need patsies. So we can create a fake circumstance to manipulate and steal an election.
That's exactly what happened in my investigation into this. What I've looked at through the documents from the discovery and everything is that absolutely there were certain people involved that were under surveillance online for years, like Barry Croft. He first came up on the FBI's radar in 2017 for things he was saying online, anti-government sentiment, they call it now, or whatever. And they have these informants that are undercover online. They have undercover agents who operate numerous identities online. They call them online covert employees. They're actually FBI agents.
Wow.
So one of these undercover feds, who I think they ended up introducing into the group, he's posing as just a regular guy online, like a militia guy, using the name Mark Woods. That's not his real name. His real name is Special Agent Mark Schwiers, and he should be very ashamed of himself for what he did in this case.
Or he should be criminally prosecuted.
He should be,
Yes.
along with Timothy Bates, who was UCE Red, who posed as a explosives expert towards the end when they needed to get these guys on something. But yeah, they planned the entire thing. They were monitoring these guys. They give their informants access to a database. This was interesting, and this is in their file for one of their informants, who happens to be, by the way, a 20-year felon who has fraud charges and pedophilia charges,
Wow.
which, by the way, the FBI kept out of their own paperwork. That had to be independently verified. So they don't even put that in their file when discussing his lengthy criminal record. And yeah, this is the kind of people that they're using as informants. They give him an access to a database of Americans they want to target. So we have to ask the question, why does the FBI have a database of Americans they want to target? What's the criteria for being put in that database? Is it being run through social media? Is that why they have all of these agents undercover there? The FBI created pro 2A groups, like pages for militias that didn't exist. And they scripted the whole thing, yeah.
They knew in advance they wanted to do. It sounds like the real plotters are the FBI.
Yeah.
The FBI agents in particular. And man, I hope, you know, I'll be a little partisan in this one. I hope Donald Trump gets elected and then criminally prosecutes all of these people.
That should happen, yeah. These
Yeah.
informants are, you know, no one really is auditing this program, the informant program. We know the FBI spends like $530 million on it a year, but there's no oversight. There's no transparency. Some of these informants, they're just there kind of like as sleeper cells. They get activated when needed. So a lot of these guys, they're targeted that way. The FBI finds people who are saying things online that are like, oh yeah, like this is someone that'll make a good patsy.
Yep.
Or for Brandon, he's got tattoos, he's got gauged ears, he likes heavy metal music. They're like, oh, this is the kind, we want this guy to be front and center. So they look for people like that, and then they have so much data about you online, and they'll have their informants and their agents reach out to people online and spark friendships with them. So Barry, for example, he had informants reaching out to him in 2019, 2020, befriending him online, pretending that they knew one of his friends who died and was going to attend the funeral, and they kind of met up with him that way. And so they're driving this thing before they're introducing these guys to each other. The co-defendants, they don't even know each other. The FBI informants introduce them to one another and bring people together.
And we're talking about months and months of surveillance against someone, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, with no criminality happening. And they're still continuing to use taxpayer dollars.
Wow. Fourth Amendment violation.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Maybe I'm jumping the gun on this one, but are there any plans for civil lawsuits, civil litigation?
Honestly, yeah, for me, absolutely. One thing we're a little bit concerned about is just the qualified immunity thing, right? A lot of times, qualified immunity is very broad and they can get away with like a lot of stuff, but my particular thing is I absolutely believe that my case could be won because number one, the defense was we did an entrapment defense with no agreement. The fact that I was acquitted by a jury shows that the government attempted to entrap me.
Yeah, malicious
right?
prosecution.
Right. And they attempted to entrap me, which is illegal for them to do, and they engaged in the criminal activity. So because of that, I just need to find the right attorney who's willing to go up against them.
I think they're out there. I think you'll find them. Do you believe that this whole fiasco did influence the election in Michigan?
100%, absolutely, because it gained sympathy for Gretchen Whitmer as well because of the hard tyranny that she brought down on Michigan with all these super strict lockdowns. You couldn't buy seeds, you couldn't go gardening. You know what I mean?
She arrested that barber, or a barber got shut down or something like that.
Yeah, the barber, you couldn't get your hair cut, all that stuff, and people were the people of Michigan. Are not, they may be a little bit, they're leftians like some of those cities like Detroit and stuff, but the majority of Michigan is not down with lockdowns and stuff like that. So, in the jab or whatever. But yeah, people were angry about that, and it was a good way to influence the election. They arrested us in October, an October surprise.
Yep.
FBI has been known to do that, and it gained sympathy for her and said, oh, look, I'm a victim. These dangerous, white supremacist militia guys were trying to, attack me and put me in jail and all this stuff. Feel sorry for me.
I think things are going to get bad. I've talked about it quite a bit. I think we're watching it. And your story is a component in what I often talk about, a looming civil war or something like that. I just recently talked about this because with the arrest of Donald Trump, we are in, once again, uncharted territory, but I say once again because it keeps happening. And so we're at the point where the sitting president's administration has arrested their main political rival. Never before in American history, but something we see in banana republics, something we see in pre-revolution or pre-Civil War. And so I put a segment together where I went back to 2017, an article in the New Yorker that said, are we headed towards a civil war? And this is because of Charlottesville. They talked to a national security expert who said he believed there was I think he said 60 some odd % chance that in the next 10 years there will be a civil war in this country. And the writer, and this is New York, this is a liberal publication, said that she spoke with several, I believe it was a woman, spoke with several national security experts who put the range between 5 and 95% likelihood based on what we are seeing in the United States at the time in 2017 and what they had seen around the world. The similarities were so shocking that the consensus among the experts was around a 35% chance in the next 10 years, and this is from 2017, that there would be some kind of civil war in the United States. The way I often frame it is, if I went back to you in 2017 and told you that a man with a communist Black Lives Matter tattoo on his neck would put 2 bullets in the chest of a conservative in the middle of the streets in Portland, you wouldn't believe me. You'd say, what? That sounds crazy. If I would have said that the media would run numerous reports about a group of men, militiamen, who were trying to kidnap a governor to overthrow the government, you would say that would never happen. If I then went out and said, it turns out the story was a hoax fabricated by the feds to manipulate an election, you'd start laughing your ass off saying, now you've gone nuts. If I would have said on January 6th, hundreds of Trump supporters would fight with cops in the front of the Capitol and storm their way in the building, while several hundred others made their way, unknowingly through the back, and they called this an insurrection, you'd start laughing and saying, bro, you should write a movie. It's not possible.